Welcome back to part 2 of London 360's Hip Hop Live Lessons. In part 1, we looked at hip hop within the world of business, politics and conscious rap. Now, Tupac once said that Shakespeare is dope, and when it comes to lyrical skill and dexterity, rap stars of today are said to be just as skilled. Let's discuss.
Rap is considered by many in the scene as a genius art form due to artists' lyrical ability and creativity. UK rapper Akala, through his Hip Hop Shakespeare Company, challenges the notion that Shakespeare is considered as too highbrow for hip hop and introduces a fresh take into how Shakespeare can be studied. And with the 2014 English pass rate falling for the first time in 20 years, according to The Guardian, perhaps this may be a suitable solution to engage students with the subject more.
Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
It's also about subverting the norms within a society. Shakespeare is hailed in many ways as the most kind of elite representation of, rich white British culture. Growing up, I felt Wu-Tang's language, particularly more than any other hip hop group, but loads of rap groups that were clever. But Wu-Tang's language was this kind of archaic, medieval English mixed with New York street slang. And that, to me, was the most creative, poetic expression of language I'd ever heard at that point.
Akala shows that hip-hop artists can be just as articulate and intelligent in their literary form as Shakespeare is deemed. To demonstrate this, he portrays similarities between Shakespeare and rap lyrics to audiences through a game called Hip Hop or Shakespeare.
Sleep is the cousin of death. If you think it's hip-hop, raise your hand. If you think it's Shakespeare, raise your hand. Interesting. Anyone heard of Nasir Jones, otherwise known as Nas? He said that.
And in the same way Shakespeare is studied in school, some may argue that the lyrics of old school rappers should also be studied in the national curriculum.
Yo, check it, 1 for Charlie Hustle, 2 for Steady Rock, 3 for the 4th coming live, Future Shock. It's 5 dimensions, 6 senses, 7 from a
The art of MCing is almost a lost art now, because you used to have great lyricists like Rakim, KRS-One, Nas even. When I used to buy a Public Enemy album and you pull out the record, you'd have to read the lyrics to understand what Chuck D was talking about. What does Rick Ross talk about that's worth analysing? He talks about how much money he spends. What does 50 talk about? Money.
I bury the most cash and burning the rest, walking on the clouds.
Certain institutions in the US allow rap to be studied on an academic level. The question is whether the same should apply to London.
Shakespeare is very complex for the young who aren't used to interpreting Shakespeare, especially with our generation's growing dialect, slang. Rap, hip hop and music are more memorable and easier to interpret.
1,000 pounds of mortal flesh is less than 1 breath of my worth.
Some hip hop artists, such as Wretch 3-2, even visit schools to teach the literary forms displayed in their own lyrics.
We've broken down some of my songs and it's like kind of explain what the metaphors are and what the similes are and what the similarities are.
With hip-hop being a music genre that interests a large proportion of young people and Shakespeare being studied across the English curriculum, maybe it's time for rap to gain recognition as a genius art form and be studied alongside Shakespeare.
Wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny the Father.